voice of health, freedom, and liberty, Robert Scott Bell.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, oh witch, wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead.
Yes, ding dong, the witch is dead. Which old witch? The RNC witch. Yes, the Republican National Committee Conference Convention has done all that it could to reveal to you how disingenuous they are. In fact, you don't have an option as far as selecting the president that you want to vote for. That's the big news here on the Robert Scott Bell Show as we kick it off with a little political healing. We've got a lot to do today. Super Don, my assessment here is that the RNC has basically done us all a favor to show us that they have no intention, and this is true for the DNC, of allowing the people to decide who they want to have an opportunity to vote for. Clear or not?
No, I think so. It's once you get past the emotional exhaustion, like a lot of people, including myself, went through yesterday watching this. You have to look at it that way. And I've seen a lot of different. Boy, I got to tell you, the internet's on fire this morning and last night. Mm-hmm. And an interesting point that was made that I saw was that in any type of a contest, if somebody cheats, what happens to them?
Right. Well, usually
they get disqualified.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
So in reality, I think we kind of won.
Oh yes, we won by holding out and standing fast. And I tell you, that Maine delegation, they're a bunch of heroes to me. And in fact, we're going to find out from Ginger Taylor momentarily. She's going to report to us live from the RNC how that happened and how other delegations stood up with them. But by standing up, you now have opened the eyes of so many that didn't want to have their eyes open as to the corruption in the political process, the corruption of the party itself. And I don't think there's going to be the unity slate for Mitt Romney as well as there would have been. And in years past when they said, okay, now let's put bygones be bygones, let's put it all aside and we'll all come together and sing Kumbaya. I don't think that's going to happen. And we're going to hear from Ginger Taylor. Is she there? Yes, she is. Yes. Right now, we're going behind the scenes at the RNC with Ginger Taylor. Welcome back, Ginger.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
Well, doing well. A lot of energy flowing out in many directions right now after witnessing the outright lies, fraud, corruption, changing of rules, bad sportsmanship, shall we say, that we all witnessed from yesterday's RNC.
It's stunning. What the Ron Paul delegates have done here is they've kind of forced the corruption out into the open by just calling it out and standing up to it. And the press is starting to cover it. What happened, I kind of explained what was going to happen today, or happened yesterday when we talked. But how it played out on the floor was really dramatic. And I don't know how much video footage is out there. But and I haven't even found it all yet. We've been doing so much press. It's been hard to actually see what press has actually run. But what happened yesterday was that the two big problems that were coming out that day that we wanted to be dealt with were, first, the credentialing report, which says what delegates will be credentialed, and the second was the rules report, which means, what new rules the Republican Party is going to adopt. The problem with the credentialing report is it certifies all of that all of the Paul people who are stripped out, including Maine, that gets ratified, that's done, and those are the people who are going to be locked out of the process. When that came up for a vote, it got chaotic very quickly. Texas is, I'm sorry, if anybody's listening from Texas, you go find a delegate and you hug them. They are amazing. We've got this little Maine delegation, and Texas is like this big giant guy sticking up for like this little tiny, group of people. So when the credentialing report came up, they immediately started booing and while it was even, before he was even given a promotion. When the motion was made to receive the credentialing report, there were the ayes, and then he asked for the nays. And the nays, again, I can't be completely objective about this, but the nays were at least the same as the yeas. So what should have stopped at that point is they should have stopped and done a roll call vote, meaning you have to actually count every vote to know whether or not to do that. What was done at the podium was to bring the gavel down and say that the chair calls that the ayes have it. That's what happened, and the room exploded. Boos and yelling, and Texas start chanting really loudly. And they had earlier been chanting. They got a chant started in the room before, as soon as they started talking about the credential report. Seat Maine now. Seat Maine now.
Right.
And half the room was chanting. I almost started crying. I knew we had a lot of support, and people were coming up saying, "We got your back. We got your back." But I didn't want to be like, I think people will really get this. But when I saw that, I was so proud that many people really knew what was going on.
Ginger,
and clued in
the video reports of it that we heard, the establishment Republicans were all yelling USA, USA over the Seat Maine now, so we could hear both competing.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is, and I'm going to send everybody to the best detailed report I've seen on what happened on the floor was on the Blaze. So go take a look at that. They've got video of the Maine vote. You can see, and they have a tweet up there from somebody on the floor who apparently a bunch of Romney people on the floor got text messages to start yelling USA as a coordinated effort to drown us out.
Yeah, I believe that.
So,
to me, this is the question. Even though Ron Paul didn't get a majority of delegates, for instance, in the Texas delegation, yet they stood strong with you guys. How is it that they're feeling?
And they didn't give up. Once the vote had gone through, Texas again started to chant point of order, which means if they're playing by the rules, they have to stop, recognize the gentleman from Texas who's leading the fight against us, so that he can, challenge what was done.
And they
did.
They
blew straight through that.
Right, they blew straight through that. So what we must be seeing now, to some degree, the people that were like, okay, well, we got to get behind Romney, we got to unify now, must be a lot of questions among the delegation that initially went in supporting Romney.
Well, that happened, and it was funny because when we were doing the main thing, we were in the stands, and some of the people around us were kind of laughing, like, "What's going on? These people are kind of crazy." But immediately after, they brought up John Sununu came up and to adopt the Rules Committee report. And the Rules Committee report is basically the report that will allow the GOP to do to every state what they just did to Maine. So the rules don't apply to Maine anymore. They just broke the rules with Maine.
Sure.
Now they've changed the rules so the GOP can unseat delegates. They get to choose the delegates. They can back a candidate starting long before they're elected. So the GOP, what it comes to is the GOP top-level people can now run their own candidate against the grassroots.
Right, and so basically... Ginger, it means that on the state level, the organizations really don't matter. What's the point of having a caucus or a vote? Exactly. So I think the GOP has shot itself in the foot. I think that it may be even a more fatal shot to itself. We'll see how this plays out. But prediction now. I mean, is this something? I don't know that there's going to be the big rallying. Everybody's going to get together and sing Kumbaya and go, Romney's our guy. I think there's going to be a backlash.
Well, there's already a backlash building because what's coming out now. But a bunch of us met last night and when you start getting your stories together. So Morton Blackwell is the delegate from Virginia who has been leading the fight against the Rules Committee, the new rule report. He is somebody who's been with the RNC for 30 years. He's a Romney guy, but he's very honest and he cares about the process. And he's angry about what happened to the delegates, and he's very angry about the rules. What they did yesterday was that the GOP kidnapped Morton Blackwell. And they would not allow him to the Rules Committee hearing before it went on the floor, and they kept him off the floor, along with the entire Virginia delegation, the Rhode Island delegation, and the Iowa delegation. So the way this works is, right now, my team is inside, and we're all getting credentials for the day. A bus arrived yesterday. The buses arrived at noon to take us to the convention. You can't get to the convention site because it's a demilitarized zone, so only the buses can get in and out. You can take a cab to the gate and walk half a mile or get one of these little carts that they're driving around. But you can't get inside without getting on the bus. So we get on the bus, we go down, whatever. What they did to Virginia and Rhode Island and...
They basically, what I heard, Ginger, is they stopped them, and the reason being is because they were going to oppose the rules change.
Yeah, so they drove Morton Blackwell around for 3 hours until the rules changes were in place, and then they took him to the convention. So they kidnapped the leader of the opposition for 3 hours and then let him off the bus.
We're about out of time here. This is a story that's unfolding, and we'll talk some more about this, perhaps even tomorrow if we have a moment. But, Ginger, I appreciate your updates right from the RNC. If you didn't get a chance to see it or hear it yesterday, you now have the chance. This is exactly what happened.
In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it, and the motion is agreed to.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Any other chair, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
That's John Boehner. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Seat them now. And, of course, you heard the chants of USA, and the marching orders were there. This is the corruption. They do not want you to have a choice for who you're going to vote for president. But we got lots more to do on the Robert Scott Bell Show today. I'll talk about what happens next hour. But we've got some more discussion. We've got Liam Sheff coming up. Stand by. Lots more healing to go on the Robert Scott Bell Show.
Do you think this will have a significant impact for support of the Republican Party by libertarian-leaning or Ron Paul supporters?
This is a return to smoke-filled rooms. The party's fractured. This was completely unnecessary, and it's ridiculous.
You're listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show.